As mentioned in my more traditional onboarding video, this is a deeper walkthrough of all of my onboarding slides. There's about 4 or 5 slides, and it's really this presentation is really me walking through the slides, both at a high level, explaining the slide, but then like stepping through it like I was presenting to a client. And hopefully, this is helpful to you in your desire to upgrade your onboarding process. My name is Adam Hanneman. Welcome to Ramblings of a Geek. This week is a double video week where we are doing 2 videos. One is the more traditional video, and then one is a little bit more of a deep dive into the onboarding slides. You'll find in this particular video that I will describe the slide and then kind of talk through the slide as if I was presenting it to a client. And hopefully this helps you, work to level up your onboarding process. So let's go ahead and get started on this video. So the first thing here is the slides are kind of broken down into kind of describing the process overall, going day by day throughout the thing, doing some checklist conversation and talking about responsibilities for the different roles of the onboarding. So this first slide is really all about the kind of the overview of the process. And so if I'm talking to a client, I would probably talk through it like this. Mr. and Mrs. Client, there's really kind of 4 phases of this onboarding process that we go through. The first thing is information gathering and documentation. Now, I'm going to need some information from you right away to kind of get started. But what's going to happen is you're going to give us some information as much as you can as it relates to a bunch of stuff, and we'll provide you with the checklist. And what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and take that information in, and then when we come on site for the first day or so of onboarding, we're going to start documenting your network in our systems. And this documentation is really key for us to get the help desk set up for success. And then we're going to step into a tool installation where we're going to remove the old MSP's tools. We're going to install our new tools, and our users should see that a tech will stop by and ask them some questions about how their computer's running and what issues they may be having. Because what we really want to do is try to clean up as many of your issues as you possibly can throughout this process, because we really want this onboarding process to be positive for your users and positive for our help desk. And so if we can clean up some of these issues that you maybe have been holding on to, we'll actually have a much cleaner onboarding. So we're going to capture some information when we do the tool installation. Then we're going to come by and we're actually going to try and clean up as many of these issues that we captured as we possibly can. And the client, your users are going to start seeing us pop by, solve some issues, and kind of like try to wrap this kind of stuff up, because when we go live, we're going to have a meeting with you guys, and we're going to invite you to your conference room or wherever that's going to make sense for us to meet. We're going to bring you some treats, bagels, donuts, pastries, pizza, I don't know, whatever makes sense for you and your staff. And we're going to teach you how to get support from us. We're going to make sure everybody is aware of what the support process looks like and what they can expect from us moving on, right? And that's kind of how I would describe this particular slide. And then I would step in the second slide here. And the second slide is all about kind of the day-by-day stuff. Now, if you're able to do this efficiently, I think you should be able to get an onboarding done in about a week. Now, maybe a real large client might take you 2 weeks or something like that, or 3, like whatever that looks like. And or if your onboarding person doesn't have the time to dedicate to an onboarding from start to finish, it might take a little bit longer. My feeling is that you really should try to dedicate an engineer on this and get through this as quickly as possible, but not so quick that the user experience is bad, right? And so how I would explain this slide to a client would be, all right, it would be as follows, right? So client, as it relates to this process, we try to get this done in about a working week. And so the first day is, once you give us the documentation, that first day is really all about documenting your network. And we're going to spend some time putting the information in our system, validating some stuff in person as we walk around and do those kinds of things. We're going to document your line of business applications. We're going to start installing some of our tools on some servers and maybe some key machines. And we have this, and we have a probe that might be able to start doing some remote installations as well, just to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. And of course, we're going to update you every single day on this process. So we're going to let you know what's going on. Now, your users might experience, us popping by to ask them some information about some key line of business applications. And you're probably going to hear from us too, because we're going to maybe have some some questions or some things that need some follow up. And that kind of wraps up day one. And again, we're going to let you know what's going on throughout the whole process, and we'll for sure kind of let you know kind of what we accomplished during day one and what to expect on day two. Now, day two is usually where we install our tools, right? So we're going to stop by, machine by machine as best as we possibly can, and remove the old tools and stuff that your former MSP used, and we're going to install our tool stack. And we're also going to throw a label on your computers to make it a little bit easier when you call into the service desk in the future. And one of the things that we're going to do though when we're on site with you is we want to try and gather as many of the issues that your users are experiencing as possible, and we're going to collect them and we'll create tickets, and we'll pop back. But at first, we're just going to gather those informations, and really what your users should experience is you're going to see us remove the old tools, install the new tools. We might have to reboot the computer, once or twice, just based on the tools that are going to be removed and installed, and really we're going to do all of that, as much of it in person as possible, really, because we really try to white glove this service, and we really want your users to feel comfortable with the transition to us as your MSP. Now, of course, we're going to update you every single day, so we're going to let you know kind of what we gathered on day two and how far we got and what day three might look like. Now, day three is really all about trying to clean up things from day one and day two. So if we didn't quite get all the documentation done, or we learned some new stuff as we kind of went desk by desk and started talking to people, we're going to add that documentation into the system. But we're also going to finish installing the tools. Maybe some users are out sick, or they were just unavailable for whatever reason. And we're going to try and get those two things wrapped up as best as we can during day three. And of course, we're going to update you as we go and keep you apprised as to what's going on. Now, from a user experience, they're going to see much of the same as day two. So if we didn't finish getting all the tools installed, a few users will see us pop by and kind of get that information. And really, this is all about trying to kind of wrap that up, because when we get to day four, your users should experience us popping in and trying to solve as many of these issues as we possibly can, right? A goal for us, again, is to have a clean delivery to our help desk, so that way when we go live, there aren't a whole bunch of calls for issues that maybe have been lingering for a while, to create a bunch of brand new tickets when we get started. So that's what day four looks like, because when we go live on day five, we're going to come by, we're going to bring you some treats. Maybe we'll bring you lunch or bagels or pizza or something. And we're going to teach you how to get help from our service desk or help desk, because it's really important to us for you to know how best to get support from us, and what information that we need from you to get good help, as we move forward, because we really want this to be a good long relationship. And we find that when this is done well, it usually sets us up for success, right? And we'll let the help desk know that what's going on, that we're live. We're going to train the help desk on with the client, what your network's like. And of course, we're going to continually keep you up to date on those kinds of things. Now, your users should expect to attend a go live training, and this is now when they can start calling the help desks for support. We'll drop a document off on how to get support and those kinds of things as well. The idea, again, is we're just trying to wrap this up nicely and have you reach out to our help desk for when you need help. So this is the checklist slide, right? So this is a slide you can share with the client and say, hey, we need this information from you. Here's the information we're going to document, and this is what the handoff process is going to look like, right? So if I'm going to present this to a client, this is probably what I would say or try to kind of convey as it relates to the slide. So I'd say, all right, so here's our checklist. There's a bunch of stuff that we're going to do between now and when we go live. And the first thing we need from you is all of this information on the left. Now, we can probably start an onboarding with just the admin passwords, because we're pretty smart. We can figure these things out, but it takes us more time the more information we have to figure out. So ideally, you can give us some information from the previous MSP. Hopefully they left you some information, and or give us their contact information. We can reach out to them and have some conversations there. We also need things from you, like your internet provider, your voice provider, who does your phones and those kinds of things. Who hosts your website? Where's your domain name at? And what does that look like? Do you have passwords for those things? What's your email information look like? Where is that hosted? And kind of information around that. Any line of business application information that you can provide us would be great. Specifically, we'd be looking for the vendors that you work with, account numbers. Ideally, you put us as a contact on those accounts before we go ahead and get started. So that way, if we ever need to reach out there to them on your behalf, we have that information and they know that it's us calling and that they're allowed to help us. It also is great for us to know your printer and copier information, especially if you have a third-party vendor that helps you with, the hardware of those things, because it's good for us to know what it looks like. Anything that as it relates to your physical security is also really important. So we're looking for, your physical security vendor information, especially if any of those devices connect into the network. And you don't need to worry about if whether they do or not, especially if you don't happen to know. We can reach out on your behalf and figure that out, or we can just kind of look around. But if you happen to have that information, it's good for us to know what that looks like. We also want to make sure that we have a conversation and or information as relates to cyber insurance. I think it's important that you have cyber insurance because every business is a target. And if you don't have cyber insurance, this is the thing that we're going to want to kind of get on top of as we kind of get into that go live stage. But if you've got cyber insurance, we'd like to take a peek at just to make sure that we're on the same page there. Also, we're looking for any kind of information as it relates to some of your collaboration tools. That's like SharePoint and Teams or Slack or any of those kinds of things, Zoom, those kinds of pieces there. And any places that you or users might store data out in the cloud, right? Is that, whether it's Dropbox or Box.com or OneDrive or any of those different pieces, it's important for us to kind of know what that looks like. So if you can give us that information, that's going to set us up for success. And it's really going to help us get our technical documentation locked in the system, because we're going to document all the different stuff, right? We're going to document your entire network from your firewalls to your servers to your network and Wi-Fi. We're going to document your line of business applications. We're going to document your printers and your email is, your domain names, those kinds of things, because it's important for our help desk to be able to help support you. And this is the documentation that we find is super valuable for us to document on your behalf in our system. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But not only are we going to document this technical documentation, but we're also going to take a peek at your processes, right? So in particular, we really want to know how to set up a new user, and we really want to know how to set up a new computer. It's important for us to kind of have these conversations early and try to capture this documentation as quickly as possible. So that way, when it comes time for you to hire a new person, it's not a mystery. And that is a really important thing. It's one of the things that causes the most frustration with many of our clients. So we want to try and capture this up front and make sure that we have that at least captured and hopefully dialed in as best as we can. Because when we get to the handoff process, here's a few things here. We're gonna do a check. We're gonna do the go live meeting. We're gonna give you a document about how to do these. How to get support. We're gonna give you a roadmap document, and we're gonna do a onboarding handoff meeting with our onboarding engineer. Right. So the idea is that we're trying to really kind of button this up and really have a really strong process to make sure that we're both set up for success as we get into through this onboarding process. Now, here's the last slide of this document, and really this talks a lot about the different responsibilities from a client perspective and an MSP perspective. So, this is how I would probably present this to a client. I would say, all right, so then there's a number of different people involved in this process, right? We've got our project manager, and their job is to really manage the project. They're going to schedule meetings. They're going to attend the different meetings. They're going to manage our onboarding text schedules. And we're going to make sure that their person is going to make sure that this onboarding conversations and communication is happening on a regular basis. Then we have our onboarding technician, right? Their job is really to document your network. Their job is to deploy the new tools, remove the old tools, deploy our security stuff, all those things. They're also going to label computers and other equipment and those kinds of things. And they're going to capture as many of the user-related issues as possible, and they're going to solve them as much as we possibly can, right? We've already talked about that, but it's important to understand this is what this looks like. And ultimately, what they're going to do is they're going to hand off support to the service team, right? This is really important that they do a full-on handoff over to the service team, because then we know the go-live is going to be a successful go-live. Our account manager is also going to be a part of this too, and they're going to attend, maybe facilitate some of these meetings as we go. They're going to run the go live meeting with you because I think it's important that they start getting in front of you and your users. And they're going to provide you with some other documentation and training, those kinds of pieces. And before we wrap up the go live, They're gonna sit with you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, and schedule the first strategic business review meeting, in a couple months or whatever the cadence might look like, right? That's we want to get in, we don't want to leave onboarding without that meeting scheduled, because it's important that we build a cadence and an ongoing relationship, and that's really their job. Now, you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you need to give us some information for this, right? We need information from you to be able to get this started, because the more information you can provide us, the easier it makes our job, and the quicker we can get you onboarded, and the more complete the onboarding will be. I also need you to attend meetings, right? I need you to come to the meetings when we schedule them, because it's really important. And we also need you to help us facilitate your staff's availability, right? Because if you've got some people that are hard to track down, we would love it if you could help us get them to focus on this onboarding process as much as possible, and really help your whole staff understand how important this onboarding process is. Because again, we really want to be your technology partner, and we really want to have a really strong relationship. And if we can do this onboarding well and get your team involved early, wherever everybody's better off for it. And with that, that wraps up this more of a deep dive into the onboarding slides. You can find these slides on my website, and feel free to go ahead and grab them and use them at your wish. Also, please join my newsletter email list. I am working on a monthly newsletter for all the different pieces of content, with maybe some additional writing and some other pieces that kind of come and go, and or links and references to other folks in the industry that I'm paying attention to myself. So with that, thanks for coming on this extended ramble with me, and hope to see you on the next one.